On this Friday night, a word of caution for the holiday weekend. A warning to keep your Thanksgiving circle small as the fourth wave shows some signs of slowing down.
We're not getting together with anybody who's not fully vaccinated.
And the cross-border roadblocks for travelers with mixed vaccine doses.
That's detrimental to our business. That's detrimental to our way of life.
Record-setting gas prices.
Gas is going up, the foods is going up, the life is going up. Everything is going up.
What's driving up the costs? No vaccine, no transplant. A Colorado kidney patient told to get the shot or give up on a life-saving surgery. Plus, giving thanks to Canada's frontline health workers.
Global National with Donna Friesen. Reporting tonight, Sophie Louie.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. On this Thanksgiving weekend, there is a bit of good news on the pandemic, but Canada's public health officials warn we're not out of the woods yet. New modeling shows the national R number, the reproduction rate, has fallen below 1 for the first time since mid-July, meaning the pandemic has dropped out of a growth pattern. But severe illness is still elevated across the country, primarily among the unvaccinated. The latest data shows the average weekly case count is 10 times higher in unvaccinated Canadians than those who are fully vaccinated. Hospitalizations are 36 times higher in unvaccinated patients. Canada's top doctor says basic and essential cautions are still needed to see us through the respiratory illness season ahead. And whether vaccinated or not, Canadians need to remain vigilant this long weekend. Raquel Fletcher has our top story tonight.
For the second pandemic Thanksgiving, Canadians hosting family and friends this weekend will once again have to limit the guest list.
My family's all kind of a little confused right now. I have 2 siblings that are in Nova Scotia, so I don't think I'll be able to see them now.
We're not getting together with anybody who's not fully vaccinated.
As we head into Thanksgiving weekend, Canadians are being urged to keep gatherings small.
Canada's chief public health officer says this is particularly important if you live in the middle of the country. Official rules for indoor gatherings vary from province to province. In BC and the Northwest Territories, restrictions are limited to vulnerable regions. Yukon and Newfoundland and Labrador recommend limiting celebrations to close friends and family, and several provinces cap gathering sizes at under 30. And in Manitoba, festivities with unvaccinated people are limited to just 2 households. The strictest rules are in New Brunswick, immediate households only, and in Alberta, 10 vaccinated people can get together, but the unvaccinated are prohibited from gathering at all. In Saskatchewan, 69% of people have received at least 1 dose, the lowest vaccination rate among the provinces. But it is not restricting the number of people at private gatherings this weekend at all. One ICU doctor in Saskatoon says he cannot stress how disappointed he is in the government and says Saskatchewan people don't know how bad things really are.
We are unable to operate on their loved ones and save their lives when it comes to their surgeries and procedures. I'm not sure he's explaining to the people that we have put a significant portions of patients' chemotherapy on hold.
Dr. Masry says doctors are already having to decide who gets an ICU bed and who doesn't. Even if there are no official restrictions, he's urging people gathering this weekend to only do so if they are vaccinated and to hold all activities outside. Raquel Fletcher, Global News, Ottawa.
Well, this is also the time of year when people start planning their winter getaways to sunny destinations. But as Michael Couteur reports, there may be limits on where you can go, depending on which vaccines you've received.
There are many other countries that are still not available.
Like many people, Suza Jovanovic had big plans to travel, but COVID-19 got in the way. She booked a trip to Italy, not only because it's a nice place to visit, but unlike other countries, Italy allows travelers who mixed doses of different vaccines, like Jovanovic and her husband. There's one problem. The couple need to travel to the U.S., which, come November, may not allow travelers who mixed vaccines.
We won't be able to, as far as the rules are right now. That's detrimental to our business. That's detrimental to our way of life.
That's even more upsetting because she followed public health guidelines to take the first dose of vaccine offered to her. She's not alone. Nearly 4 million Canadians were given a combination of viral vector and mRNA vaccine or 2 different mRNA shots.
Despite the presence of the game-changing Delta variant.
At a virtual press conference Friday, Canada's top doctor said Health Canada officials have been talking to their American counterparts about the efficacy and safety of mixed dosing.
Let's just say we have left no stones unturned to advocate for the vaccine schedules here.
Now, the U.S. is expected to establish vaccine requirements for travelers by November, while snowbirds and sun-weary Canadians want to book travel now. In an interview set to air Sunday on the West Block, Health Minister Patty Hajdu said it's still not a good time to leave the country.
Some Canadians even want to travel because they haven't seen family in a very long time, that we still have travel advisories in place recommending that people don't travel unless it's absolutely necessary.
Jovanovic says it is necessary for her business, and she hopes Ontario will follow other provinces and offer her a third and matching dose of vaccine so that she can travel. Michael Couteur, Global News, Ottawa.
Well, while the fourth wave is slowing down in some parts of the country, it's still surging in others. The Northwest Territories is dealing with record case numbers despite a high rate of vaccination. Across Canada, the territory has the highest rate of active cases, more than double that of Alberta. The Delta variant is spreading faster than ever, even though 79% of residents are now fully vaccinated.
This variant and likely variants to come will find those pockets of vulnerable people. We had a relatively high rate of vaccination, but nevertheless, some pockets of vulnerability that were remaining. And what we saw is that the virus took hold within those pockets and has continued to spread, again, primarily amongst the people who are unvaccinated.
And you can read more about why COVID-19 is spreading so rapidly in the Northwest Territories on our website, globalnews.ca/globalnational. A Colorado woman's decision not to get vaccinated against COVID-19 may cost her her life, but not from the virus. She has kidney disease and needs a transplant. Her friend has offered one of her kidneys. But the Colorado Transplant Center won't do the operation unless both women get their shots. Jennifer Johnson reports.
Leilani Lutali's life is on the line. Standing in the way, her religious beliefs against the COVID-19 vaccine. Lutali has stage 5 renal disease and has a kidney donor, but the Colorado hospital slated to do the transplant won't operate until both she and her donor get vaccinated.
I found myself, I think, trying to understand where the Hippocratic Oath comes in to play here about do no harm.
Lutali is a born-again Christian who refuses to get vaccinated because of the role stem cells played in the development of the vaccines. She met her organ donor at Bible study, who is also unwilling to get vaccinated.
If I'm the one and I can't give her my kidney, essentially I'm also now condemning my friend to death, because I can't get the vaccine.
University of Colorado Health sent Lutali a letter writing, "You will have 30 days to begin the vaccination series. If your decision is to refuse COVID vaccination, you will be removed from the kidney transplant list."
The risk of death, for example, if a transplant patient gets COVID, is about 2 to 5 times greater than in the general population.
UC Health has long required other vaccines, including the measles, mumps, and rubella shot for transplants. Other organ transplant centers are making similar decisions or putting recipients who won't get vaccinated low priority on crowded transplant lists. But Lutali isn't backing down.
I'm being coerced into making a decision that is one I'm not comfortable making right now in order to live.
Lutali and her donor are now looking at hospitals in other states that will perform her life-saving surgery, including Florida and Texas, which have banned many COVID-19 rules and mandates. Jennifer Johnson, Global News, Washington.
Well, some good news on Canada's economic front. Employment numbers are now back to pre-pandemic levels. Statistics Canada says there were 157,000 new jobs added across the country last month. That pushed the unemployment rate down to 6.9%, the lowest it's been since the pandemic began. However, the total number of hours worked is still 1.5% below pre-pandemic levels. Well, as more people return to work and the economy gets back on its feet, the demand for gasoline is now growing. Prices are breaking records in several places across the country, and it's expected to get worse as we head into winter. Mike Drolet explains what's fueling the sudden spike.
There's a certain defeatism when filling up at the pump.
I need to get to work, so I don't really have much of a choice.
In Montreal, prices edged past $1.50 a litre, a record no one wants to see broken.
The gas is going up, the food is going up, the life is going up, everything is going up.
Sadly, he's right. And what's more, there doesn't appear to be any relief in sight.
Which means if you don't like here in Montreal $1.50 a litre, you're not going to like $1.60 a litre, which is what we're going to achieve one way or another well before Christmas.
With fewer people driving due to the pandemic in 2020, gas prices dipped dramatically. But everybody knew that was temporary, and they've since climbed to a record average of $1.46 a litre. The why is a bit more complicated, although it starts with crude prices. Demand was so low in April 2020, oil was somehow selling for below $0. Today, demand has seen crude surge to a 7-year high. Oil production is also down significantly, in part because of the shift to green energy. And that wouldn't be a factor, but only 4.6% of vehicle sales in Canada are zero emission. So, fuel remains an essential need. Overseas, the situation is actually worse. Gas stations in the UK are running out of fuel, and Europe's energy costs continue to rise as the temperature dips, because Norway and Russia aren't exporting as much natural gas.
What this really means is that we're in for a long period of an energy super bubble, if you will, something we haven't seen since 2008, where price continues to rise no matter what the economic circumstances are.
So get ready for a cold, expensive winter. Mike Drolet, Global News, Toronto.
Journalists awarded a Nobel Prize. Coming up, why their efforts to promote free, independent, and fact-based journalism are critical for peace. Plus, Afghan women fight to keep rights they gained in America's longest war. This year's Nobel Peace Prize has been awarded to 2 journalists for their fight for freedom of expression. Both are from countries where free speech and criticism of the government often lead to harsh punishment. According to the organization Reporters Without Borders, so far this year, 24 journalists have been killed and 350 have been jailed directly due to their work. Eric Sorensen has more on the winners and the role an independent press plays in promoting peace.
Dmitry Muratov's reaction to winning the Nobel Prize, it's not really for him. He named 6 colleagues. Anna Politkovskaya was one of several journalists killed reporting for Muratov's Novaya Gazeta, renowned for its independence, covering Russian politics, a precarious profession in the time of Vladimir Putin. Maria Ressa founded online news site Rappler and has faced arrest and harassment reporting on death squads and controversies around President Rodrigo Duterte of the Philippines. The Nobel Committee recognized their efforts to safeguard freedom of speech.
Ms. Ressa and Mr. Muratov are receiving the Peace Prize for their courageous fight for freedom of expression in the Philippines and in Russia.
Maria Ressa, too, recognized the courage of others.
Thank you to the Nobel Peace Prize Committee for recognizing what we're going through.
These are people who are really courageous. Journalists all around the world are under threat, under attack by increasingly authoritarian regimes.
Regimes that increasingly target journalists. Even democracies can become more authoritarian.
We are not going to let the fake news tell us what to do.
In Canada, we may sometimes take our democratic rights for granted.
I've just telephoned Stephen Harper and I've offered him my congratulations.
The peaceful transfer of power from one election to the next.
Canadians have elected a Liberal government, a result we accept without hesitation.
Does your party suddenly have higher standards overnight?
No.
Here, the most powerful politicians can be challenged without fear.
This won't become another one of your broken promises.
But what we've done in the
But around the world, for too many journalists, reporting facts and seeking truth comes with personal risk. One of Maria Ressa's colleagues, also arrested, feels validated.
So it is so important that we receive this prize. Not just Maria, but it's an affirmation for journalists all over the world.
From a journalist at Novaya Gazeta today, a simple hurrah. Hurrah. Another said the Nobel Prize proves that what we do is not in vain. Eric Sorensen, Global News, Toronto.
To another fight for facts, Google is planning to restrict ads and content that promote false claims about climate change. The company says the goal is to stop the spread and monetization of misinformation. Google plans to roll out the policy in the next 2 months. It will also apply to YouTube, which just announced a crackdown on vaccine misinformation. Still ahead, Afghan women mourn decades of progress as it quickly fades under the Taliban. In the weeks since U.S. forces left Afghanistan, ending America's longest war, one question remains. If the Taliban is back in control, exactly what was accomplished? For this week's The New Reality, Mike Armstrong looks at what the 20-year mission left behind in Afghanistan and whether its legacy will last.
I wish it was just a nightmare.
It has been 2 months of wishing she could wake up from a bad dream. Shakriya Barakzai was a member of the Afghan government. When the Taliban took over Kabul, she knew she'd be a target. She escaped narrowly. Looking back on the last 20 years, Barakzai says it was a window of opportunity and freedom for women.
It was a time of blossom for us. It was a time for us to explore.
Now, the Taliban has promised a more moderate government this time around, but it seems to have brought much of its old brutality back. It is again using fear as a tool.
I don't know why people are asking, oh, we should give them time. We should give them time till they destroy everything and kill everyone.
The Taliban's first reign over Afghanistan turned the country into what some have called an open-air prison. Women were basically banned from public life, hidden behind burqas, few worked, they barely left their homes, and there was no education.
Nobody deserves such a kind of life.
This young woman never knew that world until now. We're calling her Lita to protect her identity. She grew up able to go to school, worked as a photographer, and traveled. Not anymore.
The only job that I have is sitting at home and crying for all the things which I lost. Not only me, all Afghan people.
This is new Afghanistan.
Barakzai says the country the Taliban now controls has changed. A new generation grew up knowing freedoms and going to school. The protests in the early weeks after the Taliban returned showed the difference.
They want peace. They want dignity. They want to be counted as a human.
Barakzai says technology is making it harder for the Taliban to keep its brutality from getting out. She also has a theory that where there is oppression and pressure, there is resistance. And that with this new generation, that resistance will build. Mike Armstrong, Global News.
And on The New Reality, Mike takes a deeper look at what the loss of education for women in Afghanistan will mean for future generations. That's tomorrow at 7 here on Global. Thanking the front lines. Up next, the treats and tributes for Canada's health workers.
I'm back here.
Canada's Governor General is starting off her Thanksgiving weekend with a visit to the Ottawa Mission. Mary May Simon helping to hand out food and hot meals to the city's most vulnerable. The Governor General also took the time to meet some of the mission's clients and learn more about how they shelter and support the capital's homeless population. Well, we started the pandemic banging pots and pans in honor of healthcare workers. Now they're more likely to face abuse from protesters defying public health measures. But as Heather Yurix-West tells us, there are still some small acts of kindness that mean a lot to those on the front lines of the COVID fight.
4 weeks ago, Elizabeth Prost buried her dad. He didn't die of COVID-19. But on the day of the funeral, a COVID exposure put her mom's care facility into lockdown, robbing her of the chance to say goodbye.
I was really, really angry driving back to Calgary from Saskatchewan. And I thought, well, that's something. And I thought, what would my dad do? What would my dad do? That's amazing. Thank you so much.
Instead of being angry, she decided she'd be kind, organizing a morning of treats for healthcare workers outside this Calgary hospital.
People want to do something. They want to express their appreciation. They want to express their love, their gratitude.
When Alberta COVID restrictions canceled the private events for Calgary's Devour Catering, the company began selling care packages for those working in the ICU. Within days, 6,500 meals had been sold. 1,000 will be delivered Thanksgiving Day.
The response has been awe-inspiring. Like I am amazed.
Other gestures have been smaller. Colorful signs and costumes to welcome doctors and nurses coming on shift. A healing jingle dance for those suffering in the hospital with COVID-19.
It's a blessing to everyone who's around us. They feel that power. We try to help uplift the people who are here.
Or handmade cards created to spark a smile.
I just wanted to write something from the heart, something nice and warming to give the health frontline workers a boost of energy when they read the card.
For those on the front lines, these kind acts have lifted spirits.
It's really nice to see that despite feeling like nobody's listening, clearly there are some people listening and hearing what we have to say and appreciating the work that we're doing. And so it feels really nice.
With the fourth wave crisis far from done, it's a bit of fuel for the soul to help healthcare workers carry on. Heather Urix, West Global News, Calgary.
And that is Global National for this Friday. I'm Sophie Louie. Tonight's Your Canada is Assiniboine Forest in Winnipeg. Thanks for watching. Farah Nasser will be here at the anchor desk tomorrow. Have a happy Thanksgiving.